time away from your family and friends and come over here to our town hall meeting. My name is Steve Mitchell. I live on South Tanner Road with my wife. We've been there for 35 years. We're part of a core group of people that came together real quickly to organize opposition to what you will be introduced to tonight. A lot of you already know what's going on in the community because you've been to some of the town hall meetings that the county has put on with developers. Let me tell you what this meeting is not. It is not a meeting generated by the county. It is not a meeting for the developers to tell you that this is the best thing since sliced bread. This is a meeting of a group of people that came to oppose unreasonable development. And as a result of that, we've tried to reach out in a very limited amount of time that we had to as many people from the Christmas area to the Avalon area, from McCulloch Road area to 419 up into Chiliota area. And if you look around, you see that there's been a lot of people that have showed up tonight. And so we're going to tell you a little bit about some of the things that are happening, what the developers and the landowners are proposing. We're not going to confuse you with a lot of terminologies that are from the legal standpoint. We're going to have a small presentation, and then we're going to have an opportunity to tell you what some of the things we've done already on your behalf and on the behalf of the people that come together. And we're going to have time for questions and answers from the community. This is your town hall meeting. This is the way the democratic process is supposed to be. This is your time to get involved. So with that, I'm going to tell you that there is a group of people out here, you've seen them around in some of the red shirts. They're the steering committee. Can they stand up? If you look around, there's 20, 25 of us that have come together and spent a lot of time and energy and some of our money to put up the signs you see, to do the flyers, the websites, and all the other things that we'll talk about very briefly. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is turn over the meeting to the formal part of the presentation with Debbie Parrish.
My name is Debbie Parrish. I am our Lake Picket Community Organization President for the last 12 years. Been pretty active on this side of town. And I'm also the chair for the Lake Picket Advisory Board that's sponsored by Orange County. And we are an active member of the Rural Settlement Alliance. And what I'm going to do is try to walk you through some of the things that are coming up on agendas and what we need to do, the formal part. Now, do most of you have an agenda plan with what I'm going to use as talking points? Is there anybody in here that has nothing? Mike, do we have any more? Or RJ? Right here in the middle, please. Because I do want you to take notes. And if you bear with me for a minute, I need my laser pointer because I took out my ink pen. Okay. First of all and foremost, I want to say thank you to my home church, which is River Run Christian Church. They have been supportive of every community meeting we've ever had, and it doesn't matter what the topic is about. You know, they can't take sides on different things that affect the east side of Orange County or Seminole County, but they've never turned us away. So I want to say thank you to them and our audiovisual people in the back for the continuous support. And Steve was right. We formed this very rapidly. We fought Rybolt when it occurred 4 years ago. And it was a small key group of us that coordinated those efforts, and we got the job done. This time, we have an amazing pool of talent. I have to say this, that is unbelievably terrific. And Steve is our group leader. I'm a helper. We have 2 friends from Seminole County that's helping guide people through the process, Jay Zenbauer and Deborah Schaefer as well. How many in the room, if you would raise your hand, have not already been to a community meeting? So if you've not, right? Perfect. So I am going to go into a little bit more detail, and hopefully not too dry. What's brought us all together, and let's see, if you could flip it to the next slide for me. That's perfect. Now, if my glasses would just work, that's even better. Oh. All right, this defines the subject area. And if you notice, everything in the subject area, and it's kind of hard to see this, is addressed around the University of Central Florida. And that should not be a surprise to you because that's exactly what it was 4 years ago. They're calling this Lake Pickett North and Lake Pickett South. 4 years ago, and this still is the old Bible Ranch. What they were encouraged to do was to align themselves with the 3 big property owners here in Pickett South and unite together to do a text amendment that would change the comprehensive land use plan and allow for the rezoning and a new category in planning. And I'm saying this slowly because I have to tell you this is so above my head. And when I went to planning meetings, the words they used, the acronyms that they used, it's enough to, and then you want to try to translate to the public. So they have the right to develop, by the way. And as Steve said, we are not in opposition of development, not at all. We want it done responsibly, right? And so, coming to that, and going back over here. Here's the ranch, here's Tanner Road, Corner Lake Development, Cypress Lakes, and then you've got Lake Pickett, and 419 Chilliota Road intersecting it, McCullough, which is kind of difficult to see, but in a later graph, you'll see what I'm talking about. It will intersect the community right about here. And no, I'm not nervous, but lifting my arms up, this isn't what I wanted to do. So, we want to address several items. The applicants, their justification statement actually suggests that development pressure in the area that I pointed to is partially related to market demand for residential association with employment and student growth with UCF. Well, we know that's not quite right. I can talk real estate all night with you, but I'm going to say that at BCC. And as far as student growth goes, well, we know that that's actually not correct either. It has slowed down. And developing properties really shouldn't be tied with student growth that insinuates other things that may or may not be accurate. The proposed text amendment that our Orange County Planning Department has been working with diligently with the applicant. It's incumbent on the applicant to do this, but they have had a lot of guidance from our Orange County Planning Department, is a response to the applicant's thought that there is a need, if I am making sense. And at any time, if I'm going off tangent, y'all got to stop me. So, again, we go down to north and south, and you will notice that these, and it's not really good on the map here, you can't see it, but right here, that's a rural settlement, rural settlement, rural settlement. There are 5 rural settlements around it. These areas, according to the comp plan, are in an RSA, a rural service area. And what that means, the RSA is a portion of the county that's not within an urban service area or within a rural settlement. So the land that's located in the RSA is generally limited to 1 dwelling unit, 1 home, per 10 acres. And that's the most restrictive residential that was ever adopted in the comp plan. So it is no surprise that they want to make a change. What the applicant has proposed is a text amendment that would create a whole new definition, if you will, in the planning world. And it's a rural transition area. And what that means is exactly what it says. It would transition from rural agriculture, which again is 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres, and rural settlement, which a lot of us have, that's 1 to 1. And from that point, it would result in a rural service that could go from low density into a higher density. It's the best way to clarify that. The rural transition itself would officially permit up to 2.6 units, homes, per net acre. So that's gross less water bodies and uplands. So the 2.6, the larger, would be on the outside, and then they would grow in. This is this new thing in planning that they're teaching, so that they would grow in. And eventually, to reach the numbers that the applicant wants, they could grow in to 12 units per acre. And I guess to give you a picture, that's called a townhome development, maybe an apartment building. That's how you get to 12 units per acre. I'm one of those visuals. I gotta have that, okay? That even wouldn't be 12. But part of this requirement is that there has to be enough land to support 600 homes in a neighborhood. So, here's how they did it. They divided it up. You're gonna have 4 neighborhoods in here, and then more down here. And I'm going to clarify what that all means in a few minutes. And I'm actually going to skip over some of my fancy words here, because you're going to have a chance to ask questions later. In areas where there have been environmental studies, all right, well, right here, you know what's right here, right? That's the Econ River. It's an environmental area. What's been determined is that to protect areas like that are protected, that are environmental, is that they can allow for clustering. This should not be a new word for many of you. We've already experienced that in previous growth plans. And what happened was in 1980 and 1985, the growth management plans attempted to deal with existing developments and approvals in the traditional rural areas. The 1991 comp plan, the Comprehensive Land Plan, recognized that in order to manage growth and provide adequate services, the county would need to limit development in a rural area. There were very few exceptions to this, but they do include Corner Lakes. In 2005, Corner Lake and Lake Pickett were established as separate rural settlements, although both had existing subdivisions approvals and were vested. So here comes the new word, entitlements. We already have lands that have not been built on, but they can be because they were entitled. And Jay Zimbauer, you know all about this, so you know to go shoot one off at me up here if I go in the wrong direction on this, right? Okay. So these entitlements are there, and they will eventually be built on. And what the applicant is proposing to do is the 2 subject areas, Pickett North and South, they don't have entitlements. So there is why they want to do a zoning change. Next slide, please. This actually gives you an idea of what the developer wants to do. If you were, and I'll go over the locations again in a minute, but Lake Pickett North, which would be north of Lake Pickett Road, Lennar is under contract to purchase this, but it is subject to the text amendment passing, the BCC voting in favor of it, and the BCC voting in favor for the zoning change for all Lake Pickett North and South, 2 votes. So Lennar, they actually started out at a higher density, and through the last couple of months, between community meetings and the reactions that people had, they have lowered it to a density on average of 1.9 with 2,000 units. Now, how they get to that number, again, it could be 1 lot on an acre to start, it could be 2, and eventually there may be townhomes. We don't know. This is down the road. The other 3 developers that are Lake Pickett South, well, if you look, it's about the same size in property. They're going to make up the balance, which is 2,961 units. Could be single-family homes, townhomes. It's all up in the air. And the likelihood is, it is exactly what I'm going to tell you. If we could go to slide 3, please. I pulled this Oh, I meant to tell you this, by the way, in the beginning. Every slide I am using has come directly from Orange County Planning or from the applicant themselves in presentation. So I did not reinvent the wheel, make up anything. I pulled my facts from the planning report because I want to make sure I am saying accurate information and that there's nothing being that you're not hearing something that's not correct. So, going to this came from the report, the staff report. Perfect. The staff report that will be turned in to the LPA. And we'll go over that in a minute. The staff report had a lot of requirements in it. And I was asked not to show you the concept plan because it's going to change, but I am in a minute because what I want you to pay attention to right here is this, and this. All right, this is supposed to be a park. This is going to be an elementary school. This is the middle. You got Lake Pickett Road, Chuliota Road. You have a 4-lane entrance coming in from Chuliota Road. There are very few elements in the text amendment that call for it to stay on a concept plan the way it's presented in a text amendment. And the wording in the text amendment is that the location of the schools, the community centers are approximate, but they have to be very close to where they're actually going to be. So, when I go to the next slide in a second, this will all come together for you. Let's define a community center. Most of you who live in a planned unit development that have a community pool make an assumption that that is what is a community center. This is not the definition of a community center according to the text amendment and planning. The definition of a community center, it says it must be limited to a maximum of 50,000 square feet of non-residential use. What does that mean? It's permitted to include commercial, employment, residential, lodging, and civic uses. Dwellings shall be permitted but not required above the ground floor of a non-residential use. So to make that sound reasonable in English, my first thing when I read this was I thought the flats in Avalon, right? Apartments above shops. Is that going to happen? We don't know that. But again, here's a community center. And look at the sizes. The big one here on Tanner and 50, okay? So I wanted to point that out. Now if we could go to the next slide, please. This is the most recent concept plan that was put out by the applicant. What you need to know right now, that this is not going to be the end product at all. But the reason I use this is I used whiteout because I wanted to show you from the map you saw before. I wanted to put it on a concept plan, again, to illustrate where these community centers are. So when you look at Chuliota Road, you have something here they call large lots and large lots. Yeah, that's true. Those are privately owned 5-acre spreads by a couple of homeowners. You have a large lot here, which is owned by the owner that owns the ranch. You've got another area here that consists of, I believe it's 4 big 5-acre property owners. You've got Innisbrook, Lucas, across the street, of course, all rural country estates, which means at least 1 acre. The only 1 acre across the street is Pickett Cove, and that's high and dry. The rest of us all have 2 and 5. You continue down to Lake Pickett Road. Again, these two, you've got Fontana and Mandalay over here, which is not addressed. Everything in there is a minimum of a ½ acre. You've got Lucas. They're all 1 acre. You have the new development, the reserve. They're between a ½ and 1 acre. And then you've got all these people on Lake Pickett Road that have got acreage. And up and down, Tanner Road, north and south, their own land. How do you transition and show that you can build smaller properties adjacent to these larger ones, which is what they are proposing to do. So again, the key thing here is the community center locations, because we know that's not going to vary much from plan to plan. But the rest of this, absolutely. One of my big gripes I had, and I threw it at Lennar, is with Lennar being responsible only for this. How can they put their stamp on this when no one knows what's going to happen in either one of the developments? The colors are misleading and confusing. And it makes people who, like, I'm going to throw it out there, my husband, who's a very smart man, took a look at it and went, oh, there's no O about it. So I wanted to use that to show you. If we could flip to the next one, please. This actually, again, comes straight out of the text amendment from planning. This is the way the process is going to work. Core policies will be established at the transmittal hearing at the BCC on March 11th. The core policies have everything to do with the text amendment. I think it's like 39 pages. If you haven't read it yet, I have saved it as a PDF and I'm happy to email it to you. I would like to tell you it will put you to sleep at night, but what it will do is make you crazy going through it. So that will all be determined right here. Now there will be 2 votes that day. One will be, and the first vote will be, and the attorney has verified this for Orange County, will be if the text amendment language is sufficient to approve. And if it is, and they say yes, they go on to the second vote. The second vote will be, well, it's already on, for the rezone of all 4 properties at one time. Okay? If the text amendment fails at BCC, we're done. If the BCC decides to move it forward, your next phase is right here, and it's the adoption phase. You'll see I marked out June, because that would have been the date had it been on time. Well, this is also a very unique phase to this project. In all fairness, I have to say this. They have tightened things up so hard and strong with the developers that in this phase, if it moves forward to this, it's going to be required that the planning department and the community meet with the developers to iron out buffering plan that makes us a little more happier, if you will. So when we were at the planning meeting, I asked the question. I said, well, what happens if we don't come to a meeting of the minds? What happens? And I was answered and told, then the BCC decides exactly how they want it to look. Okay? So moving on, well, again, we're looking like it probably August, and that's if it makes it past here. I don't know. Next slide, please. Important dates. Now, you have packets. In your packets, we have this printed. Orange County is doing, they're only required to do 3 community meetings, but because the core group that stood up has raised so much cane and has been intelligent about what they said and did, they know that they have a lot of opposition out here. So they are going to have a 4th community meeting on Thursday, February 13th at 6 at Corner Lakes Middle. Now I have to tell you, right, I've been to 2 of those meetings. In the planning report, on the very first page, it says an average of 80 people attended those meetings. There were a lot more than 80 people at those meetings. I saw a lot of you there as well. They put these numbers down, guys, and the only way they get it is when you sign in. And what I would like to propose to all of you is that you come, and I quite frankly don't care if you stay 15 minutes, 20, but put your name down and your address so that we can be counted on the report. That's what's critical about this particular meeting. The next one is the LPA. Well, this is what we know. We know for sure that the applicant, whether they are approved or denied, they will move it forward to the BCC. At the LPA, yes, we do need to have a small core of key people there that can stand up and say that their community is opposed, blah, blah, blah. When it gets to the BCC, we need bodies. If I had my way, all of you would be there, okay? You need to be there. And these are, by the way, approximate times. And what's important to know is when you have a subject as controversial as the one that we are facing right now. It'll never start on time. It'll never last. If you think you're going to be there for an hour and walk out, no. Those of us that did the Rival deal at the LPA 4 years ago can tell you some of us left at 1:45 in the morning. It was a bad night. At the County Commission, this is going to be a long, if you have little children, make plans if you can come and support. But the point being, we need you at this meeting. You need to be there early so you can get parking, and most importantly, we want to have you get a seat. Because make no mistake, the applicant will have a bunch of people there, and we don't want to walk in and see a bunch of suits taking up our chairs. We want red shirts, red clothes in there so that the BCC, the county commissioners, can look right out in the audience and they go, holy smokes, these are people that took time off from work, drove from East Orange County, and they're here because they're not happy about this project. We need them to pay attention to us. So we humbly, the group requests that you come to a minimum of those 2 meetings, and that those of you that can make it to LPA, go ahead and come there. If nothing else, it will be a learning process for you. One of the other things I want to mention is as well, here, and it was actually on the last slide, during the core policy and during the adoption phase, another new item in the adoption phase is that this group has to show the county how they propose to pay for this. We know our roads are impacted. Those of you that went to meetings, they're failed or failing. The applicant is only responsible for repairing or updating a road that they impact. The stuff that's already been bad and failing, they don't have to take care of. So they're working on private road agreements. The only money that the Orange County has funded for our end of town, there's only one intersection, and that's the intersection at Lake Pickett Road and Chiliota Road. There's no money for anything else. State Road 50, FDOT, we've been told it will be 6-lane by 2019. I have a personal friend that works at FDOT that rolled her eyes and told me 2021. So there you have it. And if we go to the next one real quick, I'm going to whip through. These are also in your packet. Contact information for your county commissioners. Steve's going to tell you what we need you to do, but we do need you to reach out. They need to hear from you, because when they hear from you, they pay a lot more attention. And I think the last slide for me, oh, keep going. Yep, that's Seminole County, which Seminole County residents, very important. Reach out to your commissioners because they can go across county lines and say things. And Jay can expound on that. And then government, don't be afraid. Reach out to our House representative. Reach out to the governor's office. The more people that hear our voice, the better. And I think the last one, which is broke up on a couple of them, this is in your group. This is the contact information for the members that are representatives of various communities that have stepped up to the plate, that will work with you on petitions, that will supply you with the information needed, and we're hoping that by the end of the night, we're going to have other representatives from other communities. It's hard to get the information out. The core group, look at how many people are in here. We really got it out. But there's probably 10 times as many of you that have no idea what's going on. So everybody in this room needs to take that responsibility to reach out and get the information to them. And with that, I tell you personally, all the work that we did with Rival 3.5 years ago, you have no idea. Steve, Jeannie, RJ, University Estates, Maria, and many others, they are your hard-working crew. I've told Jeannie before, one of the smartest ladies I've ever met in my life, and she should have been up here doing the planning part. And they've been busting their tail for you. We need your help to get the information out and to help do some of the work, which I guess Steve is going to explain. And that's the end of my part. Thank you.
So our job is to drive you to accomplishment. And so we'll have questions and answers. You're going to ask your heart's content. We'll have some people up here that help answer some of the questions that you have. What you heard Debbie say, and she did a great job in the presentation, boils down to this. At this juncture, the only thing that these people have to show the county There's this conceptual plan to try to get them to change the zoning to allow for more dense zoning inside, more dense housing inside of the property that they're looking at. This change in the amendment that they're talking about is going to infect all of the county, just not this area that we're talking about, because the zoning change will allow them to go into agricultural areas and to make those changes that allow them to put their apartments in and their density, because we all know that what is this being driven by? Money. Simple money. The more I can make, the better it is, and the heck with everybody else. That's the American way. So here's the... Again, we want responsible development. Currently, this area is zoned for one home for every 10 acres. I don't mind having a ranch in front of my property with a little pony and a little child running around, but I darn sure are upset if I have a 3-story apartment house sitting up there with 20,000 people in that apartment that don't live there anymore. So, what have we accomplished? The group that has already come together, and some of your neighbors, have already accomplished a few things. One of them is, we've got a wonderful website. And in that website, everything you see, we are trying to drive the buttons that we have, the petitions that we have, everything we're asking you to do is to drive into that website so you get more information, so that you'll have the facts before you, but more importantly, it gives you some opportunities to do some work. Because we are not going to accomplish a darn thing in this community if after the meeting you go home and say, you know, it wasn't a bad meeting, but you don't do a thing after that. So, we've got signs up. We've donated money to buy those signs and buttons and the petitions that are already out there. We have met with some of the county commissioners. By no means are we done, and no means why you should not be involved in helping us. We are talking with legislators about this issue here, because in the end, what they're doing, what they're asking, is to move the rural boundary from the East Con River east to east of 419. And then when it's after 419, what is it, Bithlo, and then Christmas, and forget about rural living in the county. And I don't think that most of us out here want that to happen. But I'm going to tell you something. It is important that you become involved, that your neighbors become involved, that your friends become involved. This is your community. It's not just mine or Debbie's or the people that have sat out here and given up their time already. This is your community. And if you allow them to do what they want, then we're part of the problem and no longer the solution. And I'll tell you what I heard, and you hear all the time. You're not going to stop them. You're not going to change them. They're going to do what they want. Too much money. And if we go back home and don't do anything, you're absolutely right. That's the naysayers in this group. What we want to do is mobilize you. So, one of the things you've seen on television a little bit is a sign waving. Heck, we've been out there in the rain. Ain't the best time in the world. We've been out there in the dry weather. We've been out there sucking the fumes up. But it's getting smaller and smaller because the same people are doing it all. So we need volunteers. Bill Lutz, where are you? Bill. Bill is in charge of our signs. He is the de facto treasurer, by the way, and we trust him because he used to work with me a long time ago in a little place called the Police Department in Orlando. Bill?
Okay, just a minute here. These signs are very important. It's a major reason that we have just about 2,500 petitions now. And these petitions transfer in the will of the people. Tells the politicians what the will of the people is in East Orlando and what their will be when they vote in the future. So the signs are very important. We're going to ask you at some point here to volunteer to help us with signs, volunteer to help finance signs, because this is a battle against uncontrolled growth. Now we're trying to concentrate on the areas, the arteries that surround this proposed development: Lake Pickett Road, North Tanner, South Tanner, State Road 419, East 50. We need permission to place signs in certain locations. If you have a house on one of these roads or a business on one of these roads, take a sign, you've gave the permission. If we're going to try and get permission to place a sign on East 50 at a business, we need to get permission. If you know somebody you can ask to get permission, do that and get back with us, and Jimmy Hester will put up a big large sign there. We're going to keep on the process of these signs are showing the will of the people in East Orlando. We have 13 large signs now and 200 small signs. We spent about $1,600 so far. The small group has spent that amount so far. We're going to pass a hat a little bit later. If you have some money you can share for these signs, do it. We also need sign waivers. This is where we get on East Colonial or some of the other roads and we hold up the big signs, and we're trying to get people to sign these petitions. And this has been the best method we found so far to get them to sign the petitions. Our goal is to get to 5,000 petitions, voters, on East Orlando. So we're going to have to be on the road a lot more to do that. We're just about 2,500 now. We'll be working rush hour in the morning, rush hour in the afternoon. We'll be doing a rush hour this Friday afternoon. Those that are able to go with us, contact me and we'll set that up. So we do need volunteers. Volunteers to get us permission, volunteers to help us waive signs, volunteers to help purchase the signs. And we'll pass around a couple clipboards here and different kinds of volunteering that you might consider doing. We'll pass them around, and if you have the time, please do. All right, Steve? Just run a row by row by row, and just keep passing this back to that way.
If you're so moved and so inclined to go to church, it's a perfect setting. Please volunteer. You know, and give us your time, give us your energy, because that's what we need. We're going to open up for questions and answers because a number of you have not been to any of these meetings before, and for a period of time, this might be new to you.
Hey, I'm Jeannie McKnight, and as Bill said, you are the voters, you are the voice of East Orange County, East Orlando. We need our joint voices to be shared with our county commissioners. That's the purpose of our petition. So thank you to everyone who signed it tonight or online, and if you have not signed it, we can pass. I believe they're still going through the audience, but just so you know, this is a very factual petition. It's void of emotion. It's void of opinion. So it is the letter, and I'm just going to read it. I oppose the text amendment to the 2010 Comprehensive Land Use Plan, which creates rural transition zoning, which will allow residential and commercial development at a higher density and intensity than is currently allowed on the properties being proposed as the developments Lake Pickett North and Lake Pickett South. So as I said, it's very factual, void of emotion, void of opinion. So if you've had any questions about signing it, I just wanted you to know that. You can share it. We've got links on Facebook. We've got links on our website. If you can share all of that with everyone on your Facebook, on your text messages, send out emails to everyone in your email base, and we can get a whole lot more petitions signed. So thank you to everyone who signed it so far.
When we open up the meeting for this portion of the meeting for your questions and answers, what we really want to hear is from the people who live in this community. We don't need to hear about from the developers who are going to try to sell us another slice of bread. We already know that. We certainly haven't had any representation from the county. We haven't invited anybody here from the county. They have their dog and pony show that they control. You know, but in the end, again, what this response is to is a vote. And it's your county commissioners that hold that vote. And it's to them that we need to make sure that they understand that we speak as a community. Our family trees have branches. We all don't chew tobacco and have no teeth. We don't live in what they demonstrated many times to say the Bithlo area. Like, God forbid, there's bad people who live in Bithlo. There's a ton of good people who live there.